The sound of the axe biting into wood echoed through the pre-dawn silence, each strike reverberating off the canyon walls like thunder warning of an approaching storm. And Beatrice Hartford wondered, who in God's name would be splitting logs at this ungodly hour when the stars still hung heavy in the New Mexico sky? She pulled her shawl tighter around her shoulders as she stepped out onto the porch of the boarding house, her breath forming small clouds in the September chill of 1882. The rhythmic thwacking continued, steady as a heartbeat, coming from somewhere beyond the stable. Curiosity got the better of her exhaustion from yesterday's long stagecoach ride into Tucumcari, and she descended the creaking wooden steps, her boots crunching on the dry earth. The man she found was massive, his silhouette carved against the purple dawn like something hewn from the very mountains themselves. His axe rose and fell with mechanical precision, splitting log after log, as if his life depended on maintaining that exact rhythm. Sweat gleamed on his forearms despite the cool air, and his jaw was set so tight she could see the muscle working even from 20 feet away. "You ever sleep?" she called out, immediately regretting her boldness. This was her first morning in town, and here she was, accosting strangers before the sun had properly risen. The axe paused mid-swing. The man turned slowly, his dark eyes sweeping over her with all the warmth of a winter stone. "Do you always wander around strange places before dawn?" His voice was rough as canyon rock, and something in it made her spine straighten. "I heard the noise, thought maybe someone was signaling trouble. No trouble." He turned back to his work, clearly dismissing her. "Just work. Seems like an awful lot of wood for one person." "Not for one person." The axe came down hard, splitting a thick log clean through. "For the whole boarding house. Mrs. Chen hired me to keep her stocked through winter." Beatrice moved closer, studying him in the growing light. He was perhaps 30 years old, with dark hair that fell past his collar, and a face that looked like it had forgotten how to smile years ago. There was something haunted in the set of his shoulders, something that made her chest tighten with recognition. "I am staying at the boarding house," she said. "Just arrived yesterday from Santa Fe. Figured." He reached for another log. "You have got that look." "What look?" "Running from something." He positioned the log, raised the axe. "Same as half the people who come through here." The accuracy of his assessment stung. Beatrice wrapped her arms around herself, watching the axe rise and fall. "I am not running, I am starting over. There is a difference, if you say so." Another log split. "Name is Isaac Zimmerman. Beatrice Hartford." She waited for him to say more, but he just kept working. The silence stretched between them, broken only by the steady crack of splitting wood. Finally, she asked, "How long have you been out here?" "Since midnight." "That is 6 hours of splitting wood. Good at arithmetic, are you?" His curtness should have irritated her, but instead she found herself smiling. "Among other things, I am a teacher, or I will be once the school opens next month." That made him pause again. He wiped his forehead with his sleeve, studying her with slightly more interest. "You are the new school teacher. Thought they were bringing in some man from Denver." He changed his mind, something about the town being too rough. Beatrice lifted her chin. "I convinced the Territorial Education Board that I could handle it." "Can you?" "I suppose we will find out." Something that might have been respect flickered in Isaac's dark eyes before he returned to his work. "Town needs a school. Too many children running wild. But it is not going to be easy. Some folks around here do not think much of education, and some do not think much of women doing men's work." "Then we have something in common." He looked at her sharply. "How do you figure? People thinking we should not be doing what we are doing." She gestured at his growing pile of split wood. "Nobody splits logs for 6 hours straight unless they are trying to outrun their own thoughts." The axe came down so hard it buried itself in the chopping block. Isaac left it there, his hands gripping the handle, his knuckles white. When he spoke, his voice was low and rough. "You should get back inside, Miss Hartford. Sun is coming up. You will want breakfast before the good food is gone." She had overstepped. Beatrice could see it in the rigid line of his spine, the way he would not look at her. But instead of apologizing, she said, "Will you be there? For breakfast. I eat after I finish working." "Then I will see you later, Mr. Zimmerman." She turned to go, but his voice stopped her. "Isaac. Just Isaac, Beatrice. Just Beatrice." When she glanced back, he had already returned to splitting logs, but she thought she saw the tiniest relaxation in his shoulders. The boarding house kitchen smelled of fresh biscuits and strong coffee. Mrs. Chen, a petite Chinese woman with silver streaking her black hair, presided over the stove with the authority of a general commanding troops. She gave Beatrice a warm smile as she entered. "You meet Isaac already," Mrs. Chen said, pouring coffee into a thick ceramic mug. "He is always up before the world, that man. He never stops moving." "Why?" Beatrice accepted the coffee gratefully, wrapping her hands around its warmth. Mrs. Chen's smile faded. "Same reason many people come west, to forget, to start new. Some things, though, they stick to you like burrs." She shook her head. "He is good man, just very sad. Sits on his heart like he is guarding something that already died." The phrase resonated uncomfortably. Beatrice sipped her coffee, remembering Isaac's hollow eyes, the mechanical way he swung that axe. What happened to him? "Not my story to tell." Mrs. Chen set a plate of biscuits and gravy in front of her. "But I tell you this. Isaac Zimmerman, he used to laugh. Used to sing, even. 3 years ago, he was different man. Then something happened back in Texas and he came here, and he has been splitting wood ever since. Not just wood, you understand. Splitting himself away from the world. 3 years. That was a long time to carry grief." Beatrice thought of her own reasons for leaving Santa Fe. The promising young lawyer who had courted her properly for 6 months before his wife showed up from Denver, belly swollen with their 3rd child. The humiliation, the whispers, the way her parents had looked at her like she was something soiled. "We all have our ghosts," Beatrice said quietly. Mrs. Chen patted her hand. "Yes, but some of us learn to live with them. Isaac, he lets his ghosts use him as a horse." Other boarders began filtering in for breakfast. There was old Tom Griffin, who claimed to have prospected with the 49ers in California. Young Billy Morrison, a cowhand between jobs. The Schneider sisters, both widows, who ran the town's only dress shop. Each one greeted Beatrice with varying degrees of curiosity and welcome. "Heard you are going to teach our hellions," Tom said, his beard wagging as he chewed. "Good luck with that." Little Tommy Peterson threw a snake at the last teacher. Man left on the evening stage. "I am not afraid of snakes," Beatrice said. "What about scorpions, rattlers, outlaws passing through? We get all types here in Tucumcari." "I did not come all this way to be frightened off by children or creatures." Beatrice met his eyes steadily. "The frontier needs education as much as it needs anything else." Tom chuckled. "You got some steel in you, girl. Maybe you will make it after all." The morning passed in a blur of unpacking and settling into her small room. Beatrice hung her 2 dresses, arranged her books, set out the daguerreotype of her younger sister Margaret. Through the window, she could still hear the distant sound of wood splitting. Isaac was still at it, hour after hour. By mid-afternoon, she could not stand it anymore. She filled a canteen with cool water from the pump and walked back out to where he worked. The pile of split wood was enormous now, stacked neatly in cords that stretched along the side of the boarding house. Isaac's shirt was soaked through with sweat, his face flushed from exertion. He did not slow when she approached. "You are going to kill yourself," Beatrice said. Good. The word was so flat, so empty of emotion that it stopped her cold. She stood there holding the canteen, suddenly understanding what Mrs. Chen had meant. This was not just a man working hard. This was a man punishing himself. "What happened?" she asked softly. "None of your concern." "Another log split. You should go." "No." He finally stopped, turning to face her fully. Up close, she could see the fine tremor in his hands, the exhaustion etched deep in his face. "Excuse me," I said. "No. I am not going anywhere until you drink this water and take a rest." Beatrice held out the canteen. "You can go back to your self-destruction after if you must, but right now you need to stop before you fall over. I do not need your charity. It is not charity, it is basic human decency which you would do well to accept." They stood locked in a silent battle of wills. Finally, Isaac snatched the canteen from her hand and drank deeply, water running down his chin. When he finished, he shoved it back at her, satisfied. "No, sit down. I've got work to do. The work will wait." Beatrice pointed at a nearby log. "Sit." To her surprise, he did. Maybe he was too tired to argue anymore. He sank onto the log with a grunt, his head hanging forward, his elbows on his knees. Beatrice sat down beside him, leaving a respectful distance between them. "I lost my faith in people," she said, staring at the horizon where the New Mexico plains stretched endlessly. "Not all at once, just bit by bit, until one day I woke up and realized I was living a life that did not belong to me anymore, so I left." Isaac was quiet for a long moment. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because Mrs. Chen said you used to laugh, used to sing. I want you to know that I understand what it is like to have that taken from you. You do not understand anything." His voice was harsh, but there was pain underneath it, raw and bleeding. "You left because of disappointment. I left because I destroyed everything I ever loved." Beatrice turned to look at him. His profile was carved granite, unforgiving. "Tell me." "No, then I will just have to keep bringing you water every afternoon until you do." He made a sound that might have been a laugh if it had not been so bitter. "You are stubborn. So are you." They sat in silence as the sun climbed higher. Finally, Isaac said, "I had a ranch in Texas near El Paso. Small operation, but it was mine. Had a wife, Sarah, and a daughter, Emma. She was 4 years old." Beatrice's heart constricted. The past tense told her everything she needed to know. "There was a drought," Isaac continued, his voice distant. "Worst anyone had seen. Lost most of the cattle. I needed money, so I signed on with a cattle drive north. Told Sarah I would be back in 3 months with enough money to see us through. She begged me not to go, said she had a bad feeling. I went anyway." He stopped, his jaw working. Beatrice wanted to reach out to him but sensed it would shatter whatever fragile opening had appeared. "Raiders came through while I was gone. Confederate holdouts, still angry about the war, taking it out on anyone they could find. They hit 5 homesteads along the creek, took everything of value, burned the rest." Isaac's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "Sarah and Emma were inside when they set fire to the house." "Oh God," Beatrice breathed. "By the time I got back, there was nothing left but ashes and 2 graves the neighbors dug. I spent 6 months hunting those men down, found 3 of them, killed 2. The law got the 3rd before I could." He looked at her then, and his eyes were dead. "Then I came here because I did not know where else to go, and I have been trying to wear myself down to nothing ever since, because I should have been there, should have protected them, should have listened to Sarah." Tears burned in Beatrice's eyes. "It was not your fault. Was not it? I chose money over my family's safety. I chose pride over listening to my wife. Every choice I made led to them dying alone and afraid while I was hundreds of miles away. You could not have known. That does not matter. They are still dead. I am still alive, And every morning I wake up and remember that, and I try to work hard enough that maybe I will not wake up the next morning." Beatrice did not think. She reached out and took his hand. His skin was rough with calluses, his fingers scarred and strong. He flinched at the contact but did not pull away. "You are allowed to live," she said. "Sarah would not want this for you. You did not know Sarah." "No, but I know that no woman who loved you would want you to destroy yourself out of guilt." Isaac's hand tightened around hers for just a moment before he pulled away and stood. "I need to get back to work." "Isaac." "Thank you for the water, Miss Hartford." He picked up the axe and turned back to the wood pile, and Beatrice knew she had been dismissed, but something had shifted. Some small crack had appeared in his armor, and through it, she had glimpsed the man he used to be. The next morning, she woke to the sound of splitting wood again. But this time, instead of being annoyed, she felt her heart ache for the man who worked in the darkness, trying to outrun his grief. She began a routine. Every afternoon she brought Isaac water. Sometimes he talked, mostly he did not. But he always accepted the water, and he always sat with her for a few minutes, and slowly, incrementally, she began to see small changes. The school opened in early October. Beatrice had 17 students ranging from 6 to 14 years old. True to Tom's warning, young Tommy Peterson did try the snake trick, but Beatrice calmly picked up the harmless garter snake, carried it outside, and released it. Then she returned to the classroom and informed Tommy that if he wanted to disrupt her lessons, he would need to be more creative than that. The children were bright and eager, hungry for knowledge in a way that surprised her. She taught them reading and arithmetic, geography and history. She read them stories and watched their faces light up with wonder. For the first time since leaving Santa Fe, Beatrice felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Isaac started appearing at the school in the late afternoons, repairing things that needed fixing. A broken desk, a squeaky door, the window that would not close properly. He worked silently while Beatrice finished her lessons, and she pretended not to notice him watching sometimes when she read aloud to the children. One evening, she found him sitting on the school steps when she locked up. "That story you were reading," he said. "Robinson Crusoe. I read that once a long time ago." Beatrice sat down beside him. "Did you like it?" "Sarah did. She loved books. Used to read to Emma every night." His voice was softer than usual. "I forgot that, how much she loved stories." I had forgotten a lot of the good things, focusing only on the ending. "Tell me about them," Beatrice said. "Not how they died, how they lived." Isaac was quiet for so long she thought he would refuse. Then he started talking. About Sarah's laugh, which apparently could fill a whole room. About how she burned everything she tried to cook except biscuits, which she made better than anyone in Texas. About Emma's obsession with horses, how she used to pretend she was a wild Mustang and would only eat hay for dinner, which drove Sarah crazy. He talked until the sun set, painting pictures of his lost family with words, and Beatrice listened, watching his face come alive in ways she had never seen. When he finally stopped, there were tears on his cheeks, but he was smiling. Actually smiling. "Thank you," he said. "For what?" "For reminding me they were more than just graves." Beatrice took his hand again, and this time he did not pull away. November brought cold winds sweeping down from the mountains. Isaac finished stocking the boarding house with firewood and started taking other jobs around town. He helped Tom Griffin repair his roof. He built new shelves for the Schneider sisters' shop. He worked on a broken wagon wheel for the local blacksmith. He stopped splitting logs through the night. Beatrice noticed the change immediately. Isaac started sleeping regular hours. He began joining the other boarders for meals. His face filled out a little, losing some of that gaunt, haunted quality. He even laughed once at one of Tom's terrible jokes, and everyone at the table stopped eating to stare at him in shock. "What?" Isaac looked around defensively. Nothing, Mrs. Chen said, but she was beaming. Nothing at all. Under the table, Beatrice felt Isaac's foot brush against hers. When she glanced at him, he was looking at his plate, but the corners of his mouth were turned up ever so slightly. They fell into a natural rhythm. Isaac walked her to school most mornings. He would carry her books and they would talk about everything and nothing. She learned that he was 32, that he had been born in Missouri but grew up in Texas, that his father had been a carpenter and taught him how to work with wood. He learned that she was 26, that she had 3 younger siblings back in Santa Fe, that her favorite book was Jane Eyre, because she admired characters who refused to be diminished by circumstance. "You are like her," Isaac said one morning. "Jane, I mean. You have got that same spine of steel. I am not that strong." "Yes, you are. You came out here alone, took a job no man wanted, stood up to a whole town's worth of skepticism. That takes strength." Beatrice felt warmth spread through her chest. "You are strong too, you know. It takes courage to let yourself heal. I had help." He looked at her then, really looked at her, and something in his eyes made her breath catch. "Good help." The first snow came in late November, dusting Tucumcari in white. The children were ecstatic, turning the schoolyard into a battlefield of snowballs during recess. Beatrice stood on the steps, watching them play, when she felt something cold hit her shoulder. She turned to find Isaac standing there with another snowball in his hand, his eyes dancing with mischief. "You did not just throw snow at me," Beatrice said. "I believe I did. Isaac Zimmerman, I am a school teacher. I have dignity to maintain. You also have snow in your hair now." He grinned, and it transformed his entire face. This was the man he used to be, she realized. This playful, lighter version that grief had buried. She bent down, scooped up snow, and threw it at him. It hit him square in the chest. "There, now we are even." Even, that was barely a toss. Isaac advanced on her. "This is a throw." He launched another snowball. Beatrice ducked, laughing, and retaliated. Within minutes, they were engaged in a full snowball fight, circling each other in the schoolyard while the children cheered them on. Beatrice was laughing so hard she could barely aim, and Isaac was grinning in a way that made her heart do strange things in her chest. Finally, she slipped on a patch of ice. Isaac caught her before she fell, his arms solid around her waist. They stood frozen, suddenly aware of how close they were. His breath made clouds in the cold air. His dark eyes were fixed on her face. "Beatrice," he said softly, "yes, I think I am falling in love with you." The world seemed to stop. The children's voices faded. The cold disappeared. There was only Isaac holding her, his heart visible in his eyes for the first time. "I think I am falling in love with you too," she whispered. He kissed her then, soft and gentle, like she was something precious that might break. Beatrice melted into him, her hands clutching his coat, her whole body singing. When they finally pulled apart, the children were whooping and hollering. "Miss Hartford has got a beau," Tommy Peterson yelled. "Get back to playing, you hellions," Beatrice called, but she was smiling. She looked up at Isaac. "That was unexpected. Sorry, should I have asked permission first? You can kiss me any time you want." His smile was brilliant. "I will hold you to that." They courted properly after that, though it was hard to maintain propriety when they were both so obviously in love. Isaac started waiting for her after school every day. They took long walks along the edge of town, talking about their dreams and fears. He told her more about Sarah and Emma, working through his grief instead of burying it. She told him about the lawyer who had betrayed her, about feeling worthless and used. "He was a fool," Isaac said fiercely. "Any man who would throw away your love is the biggest fool who ever lived." "I am glad he did, though," Beatrice said. "Otherwise I would not have come here, would not have met you." I was dead before you showed up, just walking around pretending to be alive. You were grieving. That is not the same as being dead. Felt the same from the inside. He stopped walking and turned to face her. You gave me a reason to live again. Do you know that? Every morning I wake up and think about seeing you, and suddenly the day does not seem so hard to face. Beatrice touched his cheek. You did that yourself. I just reminded you that you were still here. We saved each other, he said, and kissed her again under the vast New Mexico sky. Christmas came with a blizzard that shut down the town for 3 days. The boarding house residents were snowed in together, which turned into an impromptu celebration. Mrs. Chen cooked an enormous feast. Tom played the fiddle. The Schneider sisters taught everyone German carols. Billy Morrison did card tricks that amazed the children, and Isaac sang. His voice was rough from disuse, but it was beautiful. He sang old folk songs and cowboy ballads, songs about love and loss and the long road home. Beatrice watched him, her heart so full it hurt. This was what healing looked like. This was what it meant to come back to life. After everyone went to bed, they sat together by the fire. Isaac had his arm around her, and Beatrice leaned into his warmth. I want to marry you, he said quietly. I know it is fast. I know I've got a lot of history, but I want to spend my life making you happy if you will have me. Beatrice turned to look at him. Are you proposing? Not properly. I need to get you a ring first, need to do it right. He brushed a curl back from her face. But I wanted you to know where my heart is so you can think about it, no pressure. Yes. Yes, you will think about it. Yes, I will marry you. Beatrice kissed him. I do not need time to think. I do not need a fancy ring, I just need you. Isaac crushed her against him, burying his face in her hair. She felt his shoulders shaking and realized he was crying. I thought I would never feel this way again, thought I did not deserve to. You deserve every happiness in the world, Beatrice said fiercely. And I am going to spend the rest of my life proving it to you. They were married in January of 1883 in the small church at the edge of Tucumcari. Half the town turned out for the ceremony. Mrs. Chen cried through the entire service. The Schneider sisters provided Beatrice's dress, a beautiful cream silk with lace at the collar. Tom gave Isaac a pocket watch that had belonged to his father. Billy Morrison served as best man. Beatrice wore wildflowers in her hair, dried and preserved from the previous summer. Isaac wore his one good suit and could not stop smiling. When the preacher pronounced them man and wife, Isaac kissed her so thoroughly that Tom shouted for them to save some for the honeymoon, which made everyone laugh. They moved into a small house on the edge of town that Isaac had been fixing up in secret for weeks. It had 2 rooms and a loft, a wood stove and windows that faced the mountains. Isaac had built most of the furniture himself, the bed frame, the table and chairs, the bookshelf that already held Beatrice's growing collection of novels. It is perfect, Beatrice said, walking through their new home. Absolutely perfect. I wanted to give you something good, something ours. Isaac came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. I know it is small. It is exactly what I want. She turned in his arms. We are going to be so happy here. And they were. Beatrice continued teaching, and Isaac continued taking odd jobs around town. He discovered he had a talent for carpentry and started building furniture to sell. His pieces were sturdy and beautiful, with clean lines and careful attention to detail. Soon he had more orders than he could fill. Spring brought green to the mountains and wildflowers to the plains. Beatrice's sister Margaret came to visit from Santa Fe, staying for 2 weeks. She and Isaac became fast friends, and Margaret pronounced him far better than the lawyer Beatrice had almost married. He looks at you like you hung the moon, Margaret said. That other man looked at you like you were a possession. I know, Beatrice said. I am lucky. You are not lucky. You are loved. There is a difference. That summer, Beatrice realized she was pregnant. She told Isaac on a Sunday afternoon while they were sitting on their porch, watching storm clouds gather over the mountains. "We are going to have a baby," she said simply. Isaac went absolutely still. Then he turned to her, his face transformed with joy and terror in equal measure. "A baby, in January, the doctor thinks. Beatrice." He pulled her into his arms, holding her like she might disappear. "I am scared. I know. What if something happens? What if I cannot keep you safe?" "Nothing is going to happen," she pulled back to look at him. "We are going to be fine. You are going to be a wonderful father." "I failed them, Sarah and Emma. How do I know I will not fail you? Because you are not the same man you were then, and I am not Sarah. We are here, now together, and we are going to face whatever comes as a team." Beatrice took his hand and placed it on her still flat belly. "This baby is going to be so loved. We are going to tell them stories about their sister in heaven, and they are going to grow up knowing that love is the strongest force in the world." Isaac's eyes filled with tears. "I love you so much it terrifies me." "Good. That means it is real. The pregnancy was not easy." Beatrice was sick for the first 3 months, barely able to keep anything down. Isaac hovered anxiously, bringing her dry toast and weak tea, holding her hair back when she was ill. As her belly grew, so did his protectiveness. He barely let her lift anything heavier than a book. "I am pregnant, not made of glass," Beatrice protested when he tried to carry her over a puddle. "Humor me," Isaac said. "I need to feel like I am helping." She understood. This was his way of dealing with the fear, the memories of loss. So she let him fuss over her, and she loved him even more for it. The baby came on a cold January night during another blizzard. The labor was long and hard. Isaac paced the bedroom like a caged animal while Mrs. Chen and the midwife attended Beatrice. Her screams tore through him, each one a reminder of his helplessness. "This is normal," Mrs. Chen said, stopping him from bursting into the room for the 10th time. "First babies take time. She is strong. She will be fine." "You do not know that." "Yes, I do." Mrs. Chen gripped his shoulders. "You must have faith, Isaac. Beatrice needs you to be strong for her." Finally, after what felt like a lifetime, he heard a new sound. A baby crying, strong and healthy. Isaac's knees went weak. Mrs. Chen opened the door, smiling broadly. "You have a son," she said. "Big, healthy boy." "And Beatrice is fine. Tired, but fine." Isaac stumbled into the room. Beatrice was propped up in bed, sweaty and exhausted but smiling. In her arms was a tiny bundle wrapped in blankets. His son. Their son. "Come meet him," Beatrice said softly. Isaac approached slowly, afraid to breathe too hard. The baby had a shock of dark hair and tiny fists that waved in the air. His eyes were shut tight, his mouth open in a wail of protest at this cold new world. "He is perfect," Isaac whispered. "Hold him. I might drop him." "You will not drop him. Come on." Isaac sat carefully on the edge of the bed. Beatrice placed the baby in his arms, and Isaac felt his world realign. This tiny person, so vulnerable and new, was his to protect, his to love. The weight of responsibility was enormous, but so was the rush of pure joy. "Hello, little one," Isaac said, his voice breaking. "I am your father. I am going to do my best by you, I promise." The baby stopped crying, his face scrunching up as if considering this new voice. Then he settled, his tiny hand gripping Isaac's finger with surprising strength. "What should we call him?" Beatrice asked. They had discussed names for months, unable to agree. But looking at his son, Isaac suddenly knew. "David, for strong and brave. David Zimmerman." Beatrice smiled. "It is perfect. And his middle name should be Hartford, David Hartford Zimmerman. So he carries both our families." Beatrice's eyes filled with happy tears. "I love that. I love you." Isaac carefully placed the baby back in her arms and kissed her forehead. "You are the strongest person I know. Thank you for him, for us, for everything." Fatherhood transformed Isaac in ways he had not expected. He was terrified every moment of every day, but he was also happier than he had ever been. David was a good baby, quick to smile, easy to soothe. He had Beatrice's eyes and Isaac's stubborn chin. Isaac built a cradle with his own hands, carving horses and stars into the headboard. He built toys. He sang lullabies in the middle of the night when David fussed. He marveled at every tiny change, every new sound his son made. "You are a natural," Beatrice said one night, watching Isaac rock the baby to sleep. "I am terrified every second. That just means you are doing it right." Beatrice returned to teaching when David was 3 months old. Mrs. Chen watched the baby during the day, and Isaac arranged his work schedule so he could be home by mid-afternoon. They moved as a team, supporting each other, sharing the load. The nightmares came that first year. Isaac would wake in a cold sweat, his heart pounding, having dreamed that he came home to find the house in ashes. Beatrice always woke with him, holding him while he shook, reminding him that they were safe, that the past was past. "It happened once," Isaac said one night after a particularly bad dream. "How do I know it will not happen again?" "You do not know. None of us know what tomorrow holds." Beatrice took his face in her hands. "But you cannot live your whole life afraid of shadows." "Sarah and Emma are gone, and that is a tragedy that will always hurt. But David and I are here, alive, real, and we need you present with us, not lost in fear." "I am trying." "I know, and you are doing so well. You are an amazing father, an amazing husband. You just need to forgive yourself for not being perfect." It was a process, but slowly, Isaac learned to let go of the guilt. He still thought of Sarah and Emma, but now the memories brought bittersweet smiles instead of crushing pain. He told David stories about his big sister in heaven, simple tales that the baby could not understand yet but would someday. 2 years passed in a blur of happiness. David learned to walk, then run, then talk in sentences that amazed and exhausted them both. He was curious about everything, constantly getting into things he should not touch, asking endless questions that started with why. "He is going to be a handful," Isaac said, watching David try to climb the bookshelf. "He is your son," Beatrice said. "Stubborn as a mule. He gets that from you. He gets everything good from you." They both knew it was not true, but it had become a game between them, each trying to give the other credit for David's best qualities. Isaac's carpentry business had grown enough that he built a small workshop behind their house. He made furniture for half the territory, his pieces shipped as far as Santa Fe and Albuquerque. Beatrice's school had doubled in size, requiring her to hire an assistant teacher. Life was good. Busy and chaotic and full, but good. Then, in the spring of 1886, a stranger came to town. His name was Thomas Ridge, and he introduced himself as a former Confederate soldier looking for work. Isaac was immediately suspicious. Something about the man's eyes, cold and calculating, set off warning bells. "You fought for the Confederacy?" Isaac asked when Ridge came looking for carpentry work. "I did. Not proud of it anymore, but I did my duty as I saw it then." Ridge looked around the workshop. "War has been over 20 years. Time to move forward, do not you think?" "Depends on the man," Isaac said carefully. "Some men move forward, others just hide their past." Ridge's eyes narrowed. "You have a problem with me, Zimmerman." "Not yet, but I do not have work for you either." After Ridge left, Isaac could not shake the feeling that he knew the man from somewhere. That night it hit him. Ridge had been there at the trial of the third raider, the one who survived Isaac's hunt. Ridge had testified, claiming he had no knowledge of the raids until after they happened. Isaac told Beatrice his suspicions. "Are you sure?" she asked. "Not completely, but I think so. The way he carries himself. That scar on his left hand, I remember seeing it in the courtroom." "What are you going to do?" "Watch him. If he is just a man trying to start over, fine, but if he is here for some other reason, I need to know what it is." Ridge stayed in Tucumcari, taking odd jobs, keeping to himself. Isaac watched him carefully, noting who he talked to, where he went. There was something off about the man's story, inconsistencies that did not add up. Then one afternoon, Isaac came home to find Beatrice white-faced and shaking. David was at Mrs. Chen's for the day, thankfully. "What happened?" Isaac demanded. "Ridge was here. He came to the house." Beatrice gripped his arms. "Isaac, he knows, about Sarah and Emma, about the raids. He said he had a message from his brother." Isaac's blood went cold. "What message?" "That justice for the South never dies. That the war is not over as long as any of them still breathe. He said his brother died in prison last year, but before he did, he made Ridge promise to finish what they started." "Did he threaten you?" "Not directly, but it was implied. He said something about how fire was a terrible way to die and how lucky I was to have such a strong man protecting me." "Isaac, I am scared." Isaac pulled her close, his mind racing. Ridge was here for revenge, using Isaac's fear against him. The question was what to do about it. "Pack a bag," Isaac said. "For you and David. You are going to stay with Mrs. Chen until this is resolved." "No, I am not leaving you alone." "Beatrice, please. If something happens to you or David because of my past, I will never forgive myself. And if something happens to you while I am hiding, how do you think I will feel?" Beatrice gripped his shirt. "We are in this together. You do not get to protect me by shutting me out." They argued for an hour, both stubborn, both terrified. Finally, they compromised. Beatrice and David would stay with Mrs. Chen during the days when Isaac had to work, but they would be together at night. And Isaac would go to the sheriff. Sheriff Dalton was a weathered man in his 50s who had seen everything the frontier could throw at him. He listened to Isaac's story without interrupting, his expression grave. "You think Ridge is planning something?" Dalton asked. "I know he is. He all but admitted it to my wife. But he has not actually done anything yet. I cannot arrest a man for what he might do." "Then what am I supposed to do?" "Wait until he burns my house down with my family inside," Dalton sighed. "I will keep an eye on him. Talk to him, let him know we are watching. But Isaac, you need to be careful. If you go after him without cause, you will be the one in trouble." "I am not going to go after him. I am just going to make sure my family stays safe." For 2 weeks, Isaac barely slept. He kept watch over his house at night, his old rifle loaded and ready. Beatrice tried to maintain normalcy for David's sake, but the strain showed on her face. The joy had gone out of their home, replaced by constant vigilance. Then Ridge disappeared. He left town in the middle of the night, his room at the boarding house cleaned out, no forwarding information. Sheriff Dalton said he had left a note claiming a job opportunity in Colorado, but Isaac did not believe it for a second. "He is planning something," Isaac told Beatrice. "He wants us to relax, to think he is gone." But days turned into weeks and nothing happened. Spring moved into summer. Slowly, gradually, they began to breathe easier. Maybe Ridge really had left. Maybe the threat was over. Isaac was working in his shop one July afternoon when he smelled smoke. His heart stopped. He burst out of the workshop to see flames licking up the side of his house. Beatrice was at school. David was with her. The house was empty, but it was his house, his life, everything he had built. Not again. Please God, not again. Isaac ran for the water pump, filling bucket after bucket, throwing water on the flames. Neighbors saw the smoke and came running. Together, they managed to control the fire before it consumed the entire structure. The damage was extensive but not total. The bedroom was destroyed. The roof was partially gone, but the walls stood and most of their possessions were saved. Sheriff Dalton found evidence of accelerant. This was not an accident. Ridge had come back and finished what he started. He is going to pay for this, Isaac said, his voice deadly calm. Let the law handle it, Dalton said. We will find him. Like you found the men who killed my first wife. Like justice worked so well the first time. Isaac shook his head. No, I am done waiting for the law. Beatrice caught his arm. Isaac, no, you cannot go down that road again. It almost destroyed you the first time. What do you want me to do? Let him get away with this. I want you to trust the system. I want you to be here with us instead of throwing your life away on revenge. He tried to burn our house down, Beatrice. Next time he might succeed. Next time you or David might be inside. So you will leave us unprotected while you hunt him. You will risk getting yourself killed or jailed and leaving us alone. That is not protecting us, Isaac. That is abandoning us. Her words hit like a physical blow. Isaac stared at her, seeing the fear and fury in her eyes, and realized she was right. Going after Ridge would solve nothing. It would just put him right back where he had been 3 years ago, consumed by vengeance, hollow inside. I do not know what to do, he admitted. You stay here. You rebuild our home. You let the sheriff do his job, and you trust that we are strong enough to face this together. Isaac pulled her close, breathing in her scent, grounding himself in her presence. I am so afraid of losing you. I know. But you will not lose me by staying. You will only lose me by leaving. They moved back into Mrs. Chen's boarding house temporarily while Isaac repaired the house. It took all summer, working from dawn until dusk, replacing burned boards, rebuilding the roof, replastering walls. The townspeople helped, bringing materials, offering labor, showing support in the way that frontier communities did. Sheriff Dalton's deputies tracked Ridge to Santa Fe, where he was arrested trying to join up with a group of former Confederates who were planning raids on Union sympathizers. He confessed to setting the fire, proudly, claiming it was his duty to avenge his brother. He was sentenced to 15 years in the territorial prison. When Isaac heard the news, he felt nothing. No satisfaction, no relief, just emptiness. The revenge he had once craved tasted like ash. All he wanted was his family safe and his home rebuilt. Is it over? Beatrice asked the night they heard about Ridge's sentencing. It is over, Isaac confirmed. Really over this time. They moved back into the house in September. Isaac had rebuilt it stronger than before, with better materials, with more care. The bedroom was larger now. He had added a loft for David. He had built a stone hearth that would not burn. Their second child was born the following spring, a daughter they named Grace Sarah Zimmerman. She had Beatrice's red hair and a voice that could wake the entire town when she was hungry. Isaac wept when he held her, not from grief this time, but from overwhelming gratitude. Emma would have loved her, he said. I think Emma sent her to us, Beatrice replied. A sister to watch over from heaven. The years rolled on, full and rich. David started school, proving to be as bright and stubborn as his mother. Grace grew into a firecracker of a child, afraid of nothing, climbing everything, constantly covered in dirt and scrapes. Isaac built them toys and furniture and a treehouse in the cottonwood behind the house. Beatrice became the head teacher at the school, then the principal when the territory finally funded a proper education system. She wrote curricula and trained new teachers and fought for funding. She became known throughout New Mexico as a pioneer in frontier education. Isaac's carpentry became almost art. He built intricate pieces, furniture that told stories in their grain and joints. He taught David the trade and sometimes Grace too, though she preferred books to tools. In 1892, they welcomed another son, Joseph. In 1895, a third daughter, Charlotte. Their house expanded with each child, Isaac adding rooms and lofts, creating space for their growing family. The nightmares never completely went away, but they became less frequent. Isaac learned to live with the scars on his soul, the places where grief had marked him. Beatrice helped, her steady presence a constant reminder that life continued, that love was stronger than loss. They grew older together, their hair threading with silver, their bodies marked by time and labor. But their love never dimmed. If anything, it deepened, becoming the foundation upon which everything else was built. One evening in 1898, they sat on their porch watching the sunset paint the mountains gold and red. David was 17 now, working full-time in the carpentry business. Grace was 13, already talking about becoming a teacher like her mother. Joseph was 6 and Charlotte 3. The younger children were playing in the yard while David worked in the shop, the sound of hammering of familiar music. "You remember the first time we met?" Beatrice asked, her head resting on Isaac's shoulder. "How could I forget? You thought I was crazy, splitting logs before dawn. I thought you were tormented. I was right. You were, and you saved me." Beatrice lifted her head to look at him. "We saved each other." Isaac took her hand, studying the lines and calluses, the gold band he had finally bought her 5 years into their marriage when his business had taken off. "I used to think I had used up all my chances at happiness. That losing Sarah and Emma was punishment for something, and I did not deserve anything more. And now I know that life is not about deserving. It is about showing up, about doing the work, about letting people in even when you are terrified." He kissed her hand. "You taught me that. You showed me that a heart can break and still learn to love again. That grief does not have to be the end of the story." "What made you change your mind about me?" Beatrice asked. "Those first few weeks you could barely stand to be around me." Isaac smiled, remembering. "You brought me water. And you did not flinch when I told you the worst things about myself. You looked at all my broken pieces and decided I was worth fighting for. You were. You are. So are you. Every single day I wake up grateful that you were stubborn enough to keep bothering me." "I was pretty stubborn, was not I? The most stubborn woman in the entire territory." She laughed, the sound as bright and clear as it had been 16 years ago. "And you love me for it." "I love you for 1,000 reasons. That is just one of them." They sat in comfortable silence as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of purple and pink. Grace came running up to the porch, her braids flying behind her. "Mama, can I sleep in the treehouse tonight? Please. Joseph said he would come too, and we will be super careful." Beatrice looked at Isaac, who shrugged. "I built it solid. They will be fine." "All right. But you take blankets and you come inside if you get scared." Grace whooped and ran off to tell Joseph. Charlotte toddled over, her chubby arms reaching up to Isaac. He scooped her up, settling her on his lap, breathing in her little girl's smell of sunshine and dirt. "Story, Papa?" Charlotte demanded. "What kind of story?" "About the princess and the dragon." Isaac launched into a tale, his voice taking on the dramatic tones that made Charlotte's eyes go wide. Beatrice watched them, her heart so full she thought it might burst. This was the man who had been splitting logs through the night, trying to work himself to death, who had been so locked in grief that he could barely speak. And now here he was, telling ridiculous stories to his daughter, his face animated and alive. She had done that. Or rather, they had done it together. Love had done it. The stubborn, relentless kind of love that refused to give up, even when everything seemed impossible. David emerged from the workshop, wiping his hands on a rag. He had grown tall and strong with his father's build and his mother's eyes. "Finished the Morrison order," he announced. 6 chairs and a table. They turned out pretty good." I will look at them in the morning, Isaac said. How do the joints feel? Solid. I think I finally got the hang of that corner technique you showed me. Good man. Isaac's pride in his son shone clear on his face. You are going to be better than me one day. Not possible, David said, but he was grinning. He looked at his mother. There is a dance next month, at the church. Sarah Mitchell asked if I was planning to go. Sarah Mitchell, Beatrice tried to keep her face neutral. And what did you tell her, that I would think about it? I do not really know how to dance. Your father can teach you, Beatrice said immediately. Isaac shot her a look. Since when do I know how to dance? Since you danced with me at our wedding. You were quite good. I stepped on your feet 6 times. Only 5, and you have had practice since then. Every year at the Harvest Festival. David looked between his parents, amused. If it is that much trouble. No trouble at all, Isaac said, standing with Charlotte still in his arms. Come by after dinner tomorrow, I will show you enough to get by. After David went back to the workshop, Beatrice slipped her arm through Isaac's free one. You are a good father. I am a work in progress. Are not we all? They stood there as twilight settled over Tucumcari, their children happy and safe around them, their home solid and warm behind them. Isaac thought about the man he had been, splitting wood in the darkness, trying to punish himself into numbness. That man seemed like a stranger now, someone from another lifetime. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For not giving up on me. For seeing past the broken parts. For loving me back to life. Beatrice stood on her toes and kissed him softly. You would have done the same for me. In a heartbeat. The night deepened around them, stars emerging one by one in the vast New Mexico sky. Inside, Mrs. Chen was preparing dinner at their invitation. She had become like family over the years, joining them most evenings, helping with the children, dispensing wisdom and dumplings in equal measure. Grace and Joseph came running past, arms full of blankets, headed for the treehouse. David called out good night from the workshop. Charlotte fell asleep against Isaac's shoulder, her thumb in her mouth. This was life. Not perfect, not without challenges, but full of love and laughter and the kind of deep contentment that only came from surviving hard things together. Isaac carried Charlotte inside to put her to bed, Beatrice following behind. As he tucked his daughter in, he remembered doing the same for Emma, long ago in another house in another life. The memory hurt, but it was a sweet hurt now, touched with gratitude instead of poisoned by guilt. You would have liked her, he whispered to Emma's memory. Your little sister, all your little siblings, they are amazing. Beatrice appeared in the doorway, watching him. When he finished, she took his hand and led him to their own bedroom. They had made love thousands of times over the years, but it never got old. The way she sighed when he touched her, the way he trembled at her kiss, the way they fit together, 2 souls that had found their home in each other. Afterward, they lay tangled together in the darkness, listening to the sounds of their house settling around them. I love you, Isaac said. I love you too. No, I really love you in ways I do not have words for. You are everything to me. Beatrice propped herself up on her elbow, looking down at him in the moonlight streaming through their window. I know, and you are everything to me. We built this life together, Isaac, every piece of it, and I would not change a single thing. Not even the fire, the fear, not even that. Because it taught us how strong we are, how much we can survive as long as we have each other. Isaac pulled her down for another kiss, pouring everything he felt into it. All his love, all his gratitude, all his wonder at the miracle of being allowed to have this life after he had thought he lost everything. They fell asleep wrapped around each other, safe and warm and home. The years continued to pass, bringing changes and challenges. David married Sarah Mitchell in 1901, and they built a house next to Isaac and Beatrice's property. Grace went to college in Albuquerque, becoming one of the first women in New Mexico to earn a teaching degree. She came back to Tucumcari and took over her mother's position at the school when Beatrice finally retired in 1905. Joseph surprised everyone by becoming a veterinarian, traveling to Kansas City for training and coming back to serve the ranchers and farmers of the territory. Charlotte married a cowboy from Texas and moved to his family ranch, but she visited often, always bringing her growing brood of children. Isaac and Beatrice became grandparents many times over. Their house was constantly full of noise and laughter, children and grandchildren running through the rooms, climbing the trees, playing in the creek behind the property. Isaac built toys and furniture for all of them, his hands never idle, his heart never empty. In 1912, New Mexico became a state. Isaac and Beatrice stood in the crowd in Santa Fe when the announcement was made official, holding hands, amazed to have witnessed the transformation from wild frontier to established civilization. "We helped build this," Beatrice said, her eyes shining with tears. "All those children I taught, they are the future of this state." "You helped build it," Isaac corrected. "I just made furniture. You built homes. You built community. You raise children who are raising more children. You think that is not important," Isaac kissed her temple. "I suppose when you put it that way." They were older now, both past 60, their bodies marked by decades of hard work, but they still loved fiercely. They still laughed together, still argued about silly things, still held hands like newlyweds. On their 30th wedding anniversary in 1913, their entire family gathered for a celebration. David and Sarah brought their 4 children. Grace came with her husband, a teacher she had met in Albuquerque, and their 2 daughters. Joseph was there with his wife and their son. Charlotte arrived with her husband and their 5 children, the youngest just a baby. The house could not hold everyone, so they set up tables outside under the cottonwood trees. Mrs. Chen, ancient now but still spry, helped cook a feast that fed 30 people. Tom Griffin, impossibly still alive at 92, played the fiddle. The Schneider sisters, both widows for a second time, brought pies. Isaac stood and raised his glass when the sun began to set. 30 years ago, I married the most stubborn woman in the territory. I was a broken man, barely holding myself together, and she decided I was worth saving. Everything you see here, all these children and grandchildren, this family, this love, it exists because Beatrice refused to let me give up on life." "That is not true," Beatrice protested. "Yes, it is. You split open my closed heart and let the light back in." Isaac looked at her with eyes that still held the same devotion they had 30 years ago. "You are the best thing that ever happened to me. I have loved you every day since the moment you brought me water while I was splitting wood. And I will love you every day for the rest of my life." There was not a dry eye at the table. Even the older grandchildren were sniffling. Beatrice stood and kissed her husband while everyone cheered and whistled. "You split open my heart too," she said. "I came to Tucumcari broken and lost, and you showed me what real love looks like. You gave me a family, a home, a purpose. I could not have asked for a better partner in life." The celebration continued late into the night, with music and dancing and stories. Isaac danced with Beatrice under the stars, moving slowly, savoring every moment. His knees hurt and her back ached, but they were still here, still together, still in love. "Are you happy?" Beatrice asked. "Happier than I ever thought possible. You, completely and utterly happy." "We did good, Isaac. We built something beautiful. We did." They continued to live full, busy lives. Isaac took on an apprentice, a young man from town who showed promise with woodworking. Beatrice volunteered at the school, reading to children, helping struggling students. They traveled a bit, visiting Charlotte in Texas, seeing Grace's students perform in school plays, attending David's children's weddings. But mostly, they were content to be home in the house Isaac built, surrounded by the life they created together. In 1920, Isaac suffered a heart attack while working in his shop. It was not fatal, but it slowed him down considerably. Beatrice nursed him back to health with the same fierce determination she had shown in everything else. She made him rest, made him eat properly, made him stop trying to do everything himself. "I am not an invalid," Isaac grumbled. "No, but you are not 20 anymore either. Let David and Joseph handle the heavy work. You focus on the detail work, the carving, the design." "I do not like being useless." "You could never be useless. But you also are not allowed to die on me. We have grandchildren to spoil and a garden that needs tending, and I am not doing any of it without you." Isaac pulled her into his lap, holding her close. They had both slowed down, both been marked by time, but the connection between them was as strong as ever. "You are stuck with me then." "Good. That is exactly where I want to be, stuck with you forever." They made it to their 40th anniversary in 1923. The celebration was smaller this time, just immediate family, but no less joyful. Isaac was 73 now, Beatrice 67. They had 23 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren, with more on the way. 40 years, Isaac said, sitting on their porch as the sun set. "Feels like both a lifetime and yesterday." "I know what you mean. Sometimes I still see you as that young man splitting wood in the darkness. I see you as the stubborn woman who would not leave me alone. Best decision I ever made. Best thing that ever happened to me." They rocked in comfortable silence, hands clasped, watching the world they helped build continue around them. Tucumcari had grown from a rough frontier town into a proper city. The railroad ran through it now. There were paved streets and electricity and automobiles, though Isaac still preferred horses. "You have any regrets?" Beatrice asked. Isaac thought about it carefully. "I regret that Sarah and Emma did not get to live longer, that they did not get to see how beautiful life can be. But I do not regret anything that came after, not a single moment with you. Not even when I made you dance in front of the whole town, especially not that." He squeezed her hand. "You taught me that it was okay to be happy again, that loving you did not mean forgetting them. That the heart has room for all of it, the grief and the joy together. You taught me that too, that broken things can be mended, that love is worth fighting for, even when it is scary." They sat until the stars came out, talking about everything and nothing, just enjoying being together. This was what they had built. Not just a family, not just a home, but a partnership that had weathered every storm and come out stronger. Isaac died peacefully in his sleep in the spring of 1926, at the age of 76. Beatrice woke to find him gone, his face peaceful, his hand still clasped in hers. She held him for a long time, saying goodbye, thanking him for 43 years of love and laughter and life. The funeral was attended by half of Tucumcari and representatives from 3 states. Isaac Zimmerman had built furniture for thousands of people, had raised a family that now spread across New Mexico and beyond, had lived a life that mattered. The stories people told painted a picture of a man who had overcome tragedy to find joy, who had loved deeply and built beautifully. Beatrice stood at the graveside, surrounded by her children and grandchildren, and felt both crushing grief and profound gratitude. Isaac had given her everything. He had shown her what it meant to truly love and be loved. He had been her partner, her best friend, her home. But she was not ready to give up yet. She had grandchildren to teach, a garden to tend, a life to continue living. Isaac would want that for her. He would want her to keep going, to find joy in each day, to love the family they built together. So she did. Beatrice lived another 12 years. dying at the age of 85 in 1938. She remained active until the end, volunteering at the school, tending her garden, telling stories to great-great-grandchildren about the man who split logs in the darkness and the stubborn woman who refused to let him fade away. When she died, she was buried next to Isaac under the cottonwood trees on their property. The grave marker reads simply, Beatrice Hartford Zimmerman, beloved wife, mother, grandmother, she taught us all how to live with courage and love with our whole hearts. Their children maintained the property, turning it into a family gathering place that continued for generations. The house Isaac built still stood, expanded and modified over the years, but with the original bones he had crafted with such care. The tree house remained, rebuilt several times but always in the same tree, always a place where children played and dreamed. The story of Isaac and Beatrice became family legend, passed down through the generations. About the cowboy who lost everything and found a way to live again. About the teacher who refused to let a broken man stay broken. About the power of stubborn love to heal even the deepest wounds. Their legacy was not just the furniture Isaac built or the students Beatrice taught, though both left marks on New Mexico that lasted for decades. Their real legacy was the family they created together, the love they modeled, the proof that second chances were real and that healing was possible. Because sometimes, when you think your story is over, when you think you have used up all your chances at happiness, someone comes along with a canteen of water and refuses to let you split yourself to pieces in the darkness. Someone sees past the broken parts to the person underneath, waiting to be reminded that they are still here, still breathing, still capable of joy. And if you are lucky enough, brave enough, stubborn enough to let that person in, you might just find that your heart, no matter how closed and guarded, can split open one more time. Not to break, but to bloom.